Okay, for this week, guys, you're going to be doing an underwater scene. I have one set up here. When you're done, it'll look something like this. For your first project, second project, hopefully it'll be a little more creative and change it up a little bit. But for this first project, I've given you all the items. They're in the Blackboard shell that says items you need. And there's a fish, there's a blade of grass, there's a bush, and then there's a landscape. And we're going to show you how to get these all to exactly what you want them to look like they're underwater. So let's go back to our images. And so we have the fish, we have the blade of grass, we have the bush, and we have the landscape. I'm going to hide the three right now that I don't need, and I'm going to go ahead and go to the bush. So we're going to be using a variety of different methods to change this. The first one I want to do is let's go ahead and let's get rid of these trees in there that we probably don't need, and they're going to ruin our underwater feel. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the what are we going to use? We're going to use the spot healing brush tools, and it looks like a little band-aid. And the way this tool works is make sure you're on the right layer. I'm going to have to make sure I click off that that lock on there. Now, the spot healing brush tool, I'm going to use it just like a paintbrush tool where I use the brackets on the keyboard to make it bigger. And if I make it big enough and just put it to where it's just big enough to be right there on that tree, it all fits in. If I click, it makes it disappear. So I don't want this one, just make it a little bigger. Let's go ahead, click, and it disappears. This one made a little bit of error. Let's see if I can get rid of that. Maybe a little smaller. You need to play around with that a little bit. So there's anywhere on there that you don't want. Let's say you want to get rid of this little dirt patch here. Click, and it's gone. So that's the spot healing brush tool. It's very useful if you want to get rid of just little tiny things, like especially on portraits. If you have like a freckle on somebody's face that you didn't like, just go ahead and use that spot healing brush tool, and it'll work really good. So let's go ahead and start to change this. First thing to do, I'm going to change my color so it's not green. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the quick selection tool. We've been using this a little bit. Make sure you're on the layer that you need. Go ahead and select that bottom area. Remember, anything you touch, it's going to be selected. Anything you don't touch won't be selected. If you accidentally select too much, you hold down Option, make it a deselecting tool, and deselect anywhere you don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and put a color overlay on this. Because it's green and I want it yellow, I'm going to first make it black and white. Because if I put yellow over green, it's going to be blue. So go to the half circle, go to black and white. Now I've changed that green to black and white. I'm going to merge those layers by holding down Shift, selecting both layers, doing Command E. Now I will select it again. And it is selected again. Oh, didn't select this bottom part. Now it's all selected again. Now I can do my solid color overlay, and I can have it as yellow, and it'll actually look yellow. I'm going to change my blend mode to multiply so I can see it underneath. It's a little bit acidy for the ocean. Let me make it more of a tan color. That's pretty good. That kind of starting to look like sand. Hold down Shift, select both layers, and do a Command E. All right, now it's time for the liquefy tool. So I'm going to go up to the top here, and I'm going to go to where it says filter, and I'm going to go to liquefy. Now, anytime you use a filter in the filter gallery, when you use it again, it's always going to appear at the top, and it'll have all the settings that you just did in there. I don't think that's helpful because it's going to immediately put those settings on whatever you do. So always go to the second liquefy when you're ready to go. At first, there'll only be one, but next time I use it, it'll save all my settings here. So liquefy tool, we're just going to use one aspect of it for right now. It's that first tool. And this, as you stretch it, you can see it's going to start to change this. So I can start changing this so it looks more like a wave or, a sand pattern. I got to be careful because look, I've stretched up that a little bit too much, so I have to stretch it down. Now I don't want to distort it so much that I can't tell that it's got different levels to it. But I'm going to go in here and I'm going to play around with it. Change the size of the brush. It's going to give you a very different look if you change the size of the brush. And just by stretching and changing and distorting, I can start to change this up to where it's going to start to look less like a landscape and more like the bottom of the ocean. If I want to make a mountain on the bottom of the ocean, just make the brush big and I can pull it up. All right? I can just play around with that. Depends on what you guys want to do. You know, you don't have to change it too much if you don't want to, but we just want to make sure that it has a feeling of the ocean and not a feeling of what it originally was. So that's not too bad. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. You guys will spend a little more time. Now the same thing with the clouds in the sky. This image doesn't have a very strong cloud pattern, but you probably want to go ahead and distort those up so it doesn't have the feeling of clouds, more like water. And again, if you pull it up too much, just make sure you pull it down. So there we go. Just remember, it's the size of the brush is really, really important. So try it bigger, try it smaller. Smaller is going to give you a different look. Bigger will give you a different look. So, all right, there we go. That's not too bad. I'll hit OK. Now it's placed there. Now remember what I was saying about the filter gallery? See how it's right here on the top again? It would just double exactly what I did. So I don't ever want to go to that first one. I always go to the second one. And I have a little area there that I made a mistake. I can either go back in the Liquify and stretch it up, but you can see the little bit of transparency, or I can go to the crop tool, which we haven't used, but I can go to the crop tool and just crop it just down a little bit, hit return, and then it's hidden and gone. Don't worry about the size, as long as it's 8 by 10. If you pick your images when you do your second project, you're going to do your own images. And when you do your second project, just make sure you use large images and it'll be fine for this project. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the top area here. And again, on the right layer, I'm going to go to the quick selection tool. I'm going to select that out. Now I'm going to do a color overlay there to make it more of a blue color for more of the ocean. Solid color. Go ahead, do my blue. Perfect. And then I will put my multiply on. Now it's going to start to look a little bit better as soon as, first let me merge that on. Command E. Now I'm going to select it again, and we're going to use the gradient tool. The gradient tool is located it looks like a little square here. If you were using your paint bucket, it's the same one that the paint bucket's on. Now the gradient, these are the colors for the gradient, or they're up here too. So if I go ahead and double click, I'm going to go ahead and pick a blue. I'll pick almost a light blue for the top, and then the bottom I will pick a darker blue. Maybe a little darker. There we go. Perfect. Now you can see this is what my gradient's going to look like. So let's try it out. While you have the active selection on, and it does need to have the active selection, you click and drag, and it's going to form that gradient. So you can see there. Remember, it's going to be a little bit different than for this top of the ocean is going to have a lighter color, and the bottom will be darker. And it depends how long you stretch it. If I stretch it longer, it's going to have more of the dark on the bottom. And I can go ahead and place that in. Now, if you wanted the pattern of the clouds in the background, like this is going to hide it for me. So if I want those, if you don't like, I can have it like that. It'd be fine. But if you, let's say you wanted those, let me go through my window, go to history, go back in time a little bit, go back to where that was. Quick selection tool. All right. So when I have the quick selection tool, I want to do a Command J and make a new layer. And then I could do my quick selection on there. And it's ready. And then when I do my gradient, there we go. Make it, I want it darker on the bottom. I'm going to play around with this for a minute. That's all right. And then I can change my opacity to multiply. You can start to see some of those patterns come in, or I can change the opacity. So play around with that. I don't want to change it too much because I do want it darker on the bottom. Then Command D. Then once you get to a point where you're like, I like it, you can go ahead and merge the layers. If you pick a cloud pattern, it's a little more dramatic, but there's some subtle things happening there that are actually quite nice. So I hold down Shift, select both layers, do a Command D. All right, now we're ready for our fish. All right, here's our fish. I chose one with the white background. This is one you're going to use as well. How can I select that out? I think one of the easiest ways is just go into that magic erase tool, click on it. It's going to say it's going to rasterize the layer for us. So we say OK, and then we get the fish. Now, when you do your project, the first project you use fish I have supplied for you. when you use the next project, you can only use a goldfish, and they can't look like goldfish when you're done. So we're gonna make this look like a really beautiful exotic fish. How are we gonna do that? First, hold down Command, select the swatch right here, the little icon, get an active selection. Let's go ahead and change it black and white. Because if we don't change it black and white, I put the wrong layer. Sorry, that's the wrong thing. If we don't change it black and white, let me go ahead, hold down Command, select the swatch, black and white. The color that it is, even though it's very gray, is going to be affected. All right, so it appears on the top. Hold down Shift, select both layers, do a Command E. Now the fish is ready to go. Hold down Command, select them again. Now I'll do my solid color overlay. I can pick whatever color I want. Let's see. I'm going to go bright green maybe, or I could do red. Something that really pops. Maybe I'll do pink. Multiply. All right, there's my fish. He's starting to look much more tropical. Hold down Shift, select both layers. Now, how are we going to change him? Make sure you're on the right layer. Now we're going to go to Filter. Do not go to the Liquify. That's the first one. Always go to the second one. And our fish comes in. There he is. This is going to be a little more fun. So let me... we can do things. How do we make this look like a tropical fish? What if we pulled out his nose a little bit and give him a little more pointy nose? And just bring that along. Okay? Maybe I can just make a whole another part of his beak right there. If I want to do the fin on the back, I can start pulling this up. Same thing here. Same thing here. Just pull, click, and pull. Same thing with the tail here. If I want to give him real beautiful looking tail, start pulling it out. Change the size of the brush. You can really change it when you change the size of the brush. And this is going to pull more, and this is going to give him a much bigger tail. If I want it more pointed, smaller. Stretch it up. If I want it to be thinner, just go ahead and pull it in. All right. Let's say I want that eye bigger. Let's go into that eye. Let's give him a nice big eye. So just make it the same size and start pulling it. Maybe a little smaller. Just pull this out. Start giving him a bigger eye. It's going to be a little bit of a tricky job here. And the slower you go, the better you're going to do. I'm going fast. You guys are not. You're going to take your time here. You could do a much better job than I'm doing. I'm really distorting his eye a little bit, but I'll go back and fix it. I got some other tricks too. Let's get this fin to come down a little bit. And these two, this one. So let me get this back fin. I want this back fin bigger. So let me start to pull that up. Looks like a shark. You're going to play around with this. It would be good if you looked at a picture of a fish you wanted. I'm not going to sit there and do that while you guys are waiting. But you get the idea. All right, so he's starting to look more beautiful. And there's more stuff I'm going to do to him. So hit OK. Plop him in. Oh, so much better. Such a better fish now. I could, for this, I want you to have at least 3 fish. If you duplicate them, this is not a new fish. That's just a duplicated of one of them. So I want you to go back in. I want you to do 3 different ones. Play around with them. All right, let's do the blade of grass. Okay, if that comes up. Oh, where is that blade of grass? Why is that not showing? There he is. I stand off screen. All right. So again, I'm going to use the quick selection tool. I'm going to select out a blade of grass. If you select too much, hold down Option. Use the deselect. Now I do a Command J, and then I can throw away the original grass, and there's the one I want. Look at that blade of grass. That looks very pixelated. I don't know what the issue is. Let me just go in with my eraser tool and clean that up a little bit. Okay, this will be my blade of grass, and I did a terrible job with that. All right, so hold down Command. Let's get a solid color over it. Make it green, because I think that's the best for seaweed. Change the blend mode to multiply. That's good. Merge that layer on. Hold down Command E. All right, so now let's take this blade of grass and let's go into the Liquify filter with that. All right, so it is that. Oh, I went to the filter gallery. I didn't go to Liquify. Let's go to Filter, Liquify. There we go. Then I'm going to make it bigger, and I'm going to start distorting this, and I want it to look like it's underwater. So go ahead and